Hello, everyone. Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, here with you today, and I want to talk about seasonal allergies. And I know most people are probably thinking the country's experiencing record cold temperatures, there's snow, there's ice. Why would we be thinking about allergies? But allergy season is really right around the corner. All of that snow and ice will be melting soon, and those tree pollens will be full in the air. So if you deal with seasonal allergies, this is the time right now to try to get a jump start. And there's many different things that you can do. And I'm going to mention a few different products that I certainly would advise that you look into during this time. Now, even when we think about snow, oftentimes we think, oh, in the winter, allergies are not as abundant. But one thing that we do know is that the snow itself can create mold. And there are different types of what they know call snow mold um, that can actually start to form, and some of it ends up on different trees and plants. Other things are just on the grass. So there's like a gray mold, and there's also a pink mold, but both of these can certainly be triggers for those who are more prone to mold susceptibility or allergy. So anyone who has any type of a respiratory concern, sometimes during that thawing out season and the weather is starting to get a little warmer, you may start to notice that it's a little tougher on your respiratory system. And that's why it's because of that mold. And then we look at the tree pollens. And then from there, we get further into the spring and summer, and that's when we start to get a lot of the different grass pollens. But we know many people are affected by seasonal allergies. And throughout the entire country, there are different things that can trigger people. Certainly in Florida, we know that the grass pollens are a predominant thing that can create, there's so many different types of grasses down this area. So we know that that can trigger a lot of different allergies in people. But we also know that when we are looking at tree pollens, this is something that even when it's snowing, sometimes trees they get a little head start and they start to pollinate. So you may think, well, there's snow and ice outside. There can't be anything that would maybe create a problem for me. But yes, now we know. Tree pollens can get started early, and certainly now we know about snow mold, and that can really be problematic. I remember growing up in Michigan, and it seemed like every single spring I would just get hit with all of these allergies, just the runny nose, the scratchy, watery eyes, the clearing of the throat, all of those different things. The mild cough. And now that I realize it was probably because of snow mold, and it makes a lot of sense to me now. Of course, when I was younger, I didn't know anything about that. So I just figured that every single spring I would go through like 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, where I just didn't really feel that great. Same thing would happen in the fall. With different pollens that were blowing around in the air. Oftentimes people call it hay fever. But one thing that we know is that we are going to be experiencing kind of this explosion throughout the country of all of these different pollens that are going to be circulating. Remember, it's not just those pollens circulating in the air. We can pick them up on our clothes, on our shoes, and we track them into our house, which then you can start to have more and more problems because the greater exposure to this certainly can lead to many of those different symptoms that people can experience. So what should you be doing? Well, besides complete avoidance to the things that you know trigger an allergic response in you, and we're not talking about like a full blown, you know, allergic attack. What we're talking about is the traditional seasonal allergies. And like I said, the runny nose, the sneezing, all of those things that people can experience. So we want to make sure that we are targeting histamine because we know that histamine is that primary driver that's creating so many of those different symptoms. So we get kind of that swelling within the nasal passages, and then we get that irritation, and the immune system tries to take over, which actually heightens up even more inflammation, which can make it difficult to breathe, which, like I said, triggers kind of the sneezing and the coughing and all of those other things that are associated with that. So, how can we target histamine? Well, there is one thing that is actually very, very beneficial for targeting histamine specifically, and that is rosemary. And rosemary extract is a really lovely way for your body to kind of create kind of this desensitizing effect. And that's for many people who suffer with seasonal allergies, that's all they want. They just want that relief. And maybe you're using some, over the counter stuff that you find at your local pharmacy and then it dries you out. And then, that's not a pleasant thing either. So if we get a head start and we start to incorporate different nutrients that help in that control and regulation of histamine, one being rosemary, the other one that's very, very beneficial is quercetin. And so quercetin in combination with rosemary is kind of a really solid 1-2 punch. So how would you utilize these? Well, we have our black seed with rosemary and cordyceps formulation. So it has black seed extract, which is also the Nigella sativa, or cumin extract. And this is very beneficial because we remember when we think about allergies, we know that there's an inflammatory response that occurs. So we know that the black seed extract is very, very targeted towards not only the cyclooxygenase pathways, but also the lipooxygenase pathway, which is key, especially when we think about respiratory health. So when we think about the respiratory bronchi, for example, having black seed on board, very, very useful. And then we look at the rosemary extract that's blended in there. So what do we know about rosemary? We know that that very much so targets in a natural sense that histamine response. So you get the release of histamine from your mast cells. And so the more that we can regulate that, the better off we are. Now, this also has cordyceps mushroom in it. We know mushrooms are wonderful in terms of being a really nice way to naturally enhance our immune defenses. But we also know that mushrooms contain natural vitamin D. So we know vitamin D is incredibly critical for our immune system. So by taking the black seed extract, you are now taking in things that are going to target the inflammation that can occur within the sinuses, within the airways. We have the rosemary extract to target that histamine. And then, of course, we have our immune support coming from that cordyceps mushroom. So, how would you take it? Well, it really kind of depends on how much you are impacted by these different molds and pollens. So, for many people, I would say if this is a common issue that you experience, I would definitely do 2 caps 2 times a day. So, maybe 2 with breakfast, 2 with dinner. Very good plan. I have many people who have used that technique and are very, very happy with that. Now, the quercetin, that's the other nutrient that I had mentioned. Remember, quercetin is just this powerful citrus bioflavonoid that does all of these wonderful things for our bodies. And one thing is targeting that histamine. We also know that it's very targeted towards other types of pollutants, even with different pesticides, for example. So having quercetin on board is also a really nice way for you to modify your routine going into the seasonal allergy time. And like I said, even though we look outside, you may see that snow and that ice and go, oh, that can't be allergy season. It is truly right around the corner. And for many places of the country, they're already experiencing that. Like I said, it could be the snow mold that can start to create problems for you. Or it could be that there are certain trees in your area that are actually starting to pollinate. So definitely go to our website, check out the black seed with rosemary and cordyceps, and check out that quercetin formulation. I will be back with you in a few more